Hey everyone, welcome back to another deck guide. Today we look at another hero who got a lot of support in Trial by Frost, Gulrang. I played this hero in Beyond the Gates and it always felt like there was some key pieces missing. Let's see if the pieces are there now. I will show you my early Theorycraft deck, explain my choices and also have some strategy to play the deck. But first, let's look at a hero. Gulrang will boost all your tokens you create. A simple orders recruit will always be a 2/2/2 in stats, but you can also create Brassbugs and the new Mana Moth who will be both with 3/3/3. The drawback is that all these tokens will have Defender for as long as you have less than 8 mana orbs. If you put in only mana at the morning phase, you need to survive 5 turns to lose Defender. If you are interested in a multiplayer game, you can actually create tokens on your partner's side which get buffed, but you don't have Defender. So, with this hero, you want to create tokens a lot, as they will always get a boost. In Beyond the Gates, Gulrang did not have enough support to create a competitive deck. At the early game, you could never block both lanes simultaneously to stop your opponent in their tracks, meaning you would always lose, or at least not win, the first few turns until the moment you got yourself to 8 mana orbs. Then you could go off with huge swing turns with creating a lot of tokens. Most of the times your opponent was already so far ahead you could barely keep up and you can never lose a single expedition again. If you built your deck with less token generators but with normal characters, it meant that you were not playing to the advantage of the hero and you will lose out on all these boosts. Either way, it never felt great. But now we got some great tools to overcome the early game issues, and also we got some cards that are even better when you are behind, which would normally be the way this hero operates until 8 mana orbs. The first of these cards is Sunisa, Dedicated Ensign. This is my favorite card of Trial by Frost. The art is great, the effect is great, and they fit perfectly together. This named character is also the one for orders in the organized play boosters and the one on the Tumble Championship game mat in Season 2. I chose for the rare because it is on her own a 3 mana 3/3/3. She has Defender, but when her expedition is behind, defenders are not preventing you from going forward. This is a very good upside. You can lose an expedition on turn 1 and on turn 2 play this there without Defender. But that's not all, you can even create an Orders Recruit, which is just a 2/2/2 with Gulrang's ability. Note that this is a target expedition and can be played in your other expedition. If you are going second on turn 1, this card can block both expeditions at once if needed. The choice where to put the token is so strong and versatile. It is a 3 mana 5/5 in stats that can be played in one expedition or in both. The second card I played 3 of is another Trial by Frost rare, Chrysalis. This card is just a 2/2/2 defender for 2 when played, but when this card leaves the expedition zone, you leave a 3/3/3 mana moth. This is very helpful at the night phase, with leaving the moth for the next day. Also, your opponent probably doesn't want to remove this card as it will summon a higher stat moth. It even has a good support ability which can come in handy to stop your opponents from playing a good card from reserve. As Chrysalis hits your reserve from expedition zone, you already have that mana moth in play, so why not using the support ability will not hinder your advantage on the field that day. Note that the Mana Moth is also a 3/3 with Defender when below 8 mana. Another staple of many Orders decks is the rare Baba Yaga. We also run 3. This card is really needed for the necessary card draw and making sure you will not run out of steam that easy. One of the big downsides of Gulrang is not being able to get enough card advantage or drawing only cards with Defender. This card can win the expedition on its own at turn 1. And at later stages of the game, this can be still used to draw into more power when you will have the mana to spend. We do have some good amount of 2 and 3 cost cards in the deck, therefore having some 1 mana plays help the deck out considerably. I ran 3 of both Orders Trooper and the Paper Herald. The Trooper is just a solid 1 mana 1/1/1 which is just very flexible, and the Paper Herald is not that good from hand, but it can summon that 2/2/2 token for free in the next turn, which is fantastic. Both serve as a 1 mana FTU effect as well. Then I ran 3 copies of Orders Gatekeeper. I used to have the rare one for the stats, as the token in both expeditions was very good. But having a token in both also means both expeditions have Defender before you are at 8 mana. With the common version, you can have tried to win at least one expedition while blocking off the other one for you and your opponent. This way is I feel more flexible. Note that Gatekeeper is a lot like Sunisa in stats and use, except it has no defender itself and it cannot choose where the token is. I think this card is very good in the deck and a common staple. The Orders Cadet are also summoning a recruit when entering, but only at the same side, effectively being a 3/3/2 defender for 2 mana early game. It can block off your opponent while playing a trooper or Papal Herald next to it, or they can be played on the other side, try to steal a lane. Our last character is the Order Spy. We need some form of control and I think the common spy will do perfectly. I know the rare will summon a recruit, but the rare slots are tight and I do like a 2/2 for 2 that doesn't have defender, so we can win a lane early game. Next we continue with the spells. The first one is a new one from Trial by Fawcett. Field Reinforcement is an absolute killer spell. 2 mana, you can either draw a card or create a 2/2 recruit. This flexibility is already awesome, but if you are tied or behind on both expeditions, you can choose both. On turn 1, this means you can draw a card and create a token, which is very nice. But as the hero is built to behind until 8 mana, this card is an instant easy inclusion. The second spell is also a new one, Geyser. Returning a character on turn 2 will probably lose you 1 or 2 expeditions, but as said, we don't mind being a little behind at the start. It even activates a lot of our cards like Sunisa and Field Reinforcements. The upside is that we will get another mana orb, and therefore we are going faster to 8 mana to activate the attacking mode of Gulrang. As extra mode you can even target permanents, so removing that slate to stop opponents from double moving, we can do that as well. We only run 2 though. You only want to see this once a game. As soon as you reach 8 mana, the value of this card drastically drops. Our removal suite contains 3 copies of Teamwork Training and 2 copies of Sticky Note Seals. We do want to protect our lanes as best as possible, and to do this we want to have answers to everything. That's why I run these 2 common versions of these removal cards. If 5 is too much for your liking, you can switch one of the commons to Charge. I might do that myself as well. As you have a lot of token spawning cards, Charge is really good and will get you easy 3 or more boosts for 2 mana. Also it can be very valuable with our last spell. Open the Gates is here to finish the game. 4 recruits means 8/8/8 in stats for 5 mana that can be cast twice, because the spell doesn't have fleeting. With Open the Gates you can choose where to play your tokens. You can put them all at one expedition, or you can distribute them how you like. Whatever way you are putting them, you are sure to win at least one of your lanes. If you are also having Charge in hand, you are winning both lanes almost sure. This is our biggest comeback card. Without this, I don't think you have enough power to come back into the game. Although there are some uniques as well that can do that. Our last card in the deck is one of the new expedition permanents, the Mobile Armory. I run 2 rares and 1 common one. The rare has an upside that you can go forward even if you have defender. Late game though, you don't need that upside anymore, as tokens lose defender. That's why I run 2 copies of the rare. As I do think the 1 mana creates a 2/2 is very good to have, I still run the 3rd copy as a common. It is also a pseudo after you as it's also cheap. For uniques, you can look for cards with the Open the Gates effect, meaning you can distribute 4 tokens as you like. This is maybe the best effect to look for, but also one of the rarest to find. If you can't find any of those, there are still plenty of token spawning uniques available. You have some that say when one non-token character enters the expedition, put 1 or 2 tokens onto the expedition. This is of course very good and also very desirable. Again, you can downgrade that effect to spawn 1 or 2 tokens when played, or a token at each of your expeditions. If you don't like spawning tokens, as always resupplying and drawing effects are very nice to have as well, as we want to have a lot of cards to make sure we can block our opponent and stall as long as possible, or have a lot of resources available for when we reach max mana. Some good turn 1 plays are Baba Yaga and Sunisa. Baba Yaga will draw us a card and can let us win an expedition, while Sunisa might be able to block both expeditions, which counts as a big win from this deck. These cards tend to be better when you go second and can make sure you win or block lanes. If you don't have a 3 mana card start, these 2 cards with mana cost of 2 are also good to play at turn 1. With Field Reinforcements you will summon and draw for 2 mana, which is really nice, hopefully blocking at least 1 lane and draw a card. With Chrysalis, you might block a lane and summon a 3/3/3 mana moth to help the next day. Drop this animal again the next day to get a streak going of some characters for a few days to stall out of your opponent. If you have one of those 2-cost plays, try to look for one of these 1-costs to go along with it. Trooper is good to defend the lane, and getting Paper Herald in reserve for next turn is a big plus on stats the next turn. The Armory, played next to your Chrysalis, make sure you will move forward with that lane, or it can be played at the other side to hopefully 1-0 your opponent in your favor. Lastly, Gatekeeper on turn 1 can also win a lane on his own while blocking the other. With Gulrang, you want to start as second player to optimize your defensive strategy. Lastly, Cadets with its token will block off most of your opponent's plays. Put that herald next to it and your missing water stat will be filled. When you are between the 4 and 6 mana, try to stall your opponent with Sunisa. Playing the token on her side to block a lane off, or try to win a lane as you are probably behind. Chrysalis is a very good card next to Sunisa, or just again to get these tokens rolling. If you're at 7 mana and play Chrysalis, you get a 3/3 mana moth that can attack next turn. Geyser is here to stall your opponent as well and to accelerate your mana orbs. This card may not win you one lane, but it makes sure you don't lose both. Into the late game, you want to draw Open the Gates. This card is a monster. For only 5 mana you can surely play 1 or 2 other characters as well. Playing those cards first to make sure you can put your recruits where you can win both expeditions. If you slot in charge, that card can be used to close out a double win with this card, or even with some small token spawn cards. So this is my complete list. I might change the Gatekeeper or Cadets plus a teamwork training for a charge, depending on how this deck is running. Another card I keep an eye out for is Veilman. This card seems powerful on its own as well, specifically the rare version, but getting to 10 mana might be hard to consistently go for. Thanks for watching this deck guide. Gulrang is an absolute favorite hero of mine, so I'm hoping this deck will do well. With Trial by Frost officially being released, this will be my last Theorycraft guide. However, I will change to a guide that I tested already with some actual gameplay. If you like my video, help me out with subscribing to my channel or put a like on the video. Let me know in the comments which hero I should bring in the next time. I'm the Bravos Header and I hope to see you again soon.